able to see the screen, and let me make this full screen also. So now I'm not able to see you, but I'm only able to see my screen. So whenever any participant would like to ask or raise something, so please feel free to stop me and let me know. You may also write in chat box also in that, and or what I will do, I will stop after a couple of minutes every time, so that any question can be also taken up. So please feel free to interact, and we are aware of this is the limitation of interaction, but don't wait till I give you an opportunity. Take this opportunity and let me know if you are having any query. So this talk is on to see that whenever the high penetration of renewable energy is there, what could be the issues and challenges. So broadly, this talk is actually divided into two parts. One is the economic issue, another one is the technical issue. So today we'll be going to discuss mostly the technical issue, and if the time permits, then we can briefly see about the economic issues. So this is what I intend to do. I also assume that all of us are from electrical engineering background or engineering background. So some of the keywords which are going to be used in this talk would be like we are aware of these. But still, if you feel that some of the keywords what I'm going to use as a engineer, electrical engineer, if you are not comfortable with that, please feel free to let me know so that we can some deliberate on something more. Before moving for a technical part, now you will be able to see a few slides on a introduction to IIT Mandi. IIT Mandi started in 2008 with IIT Roorkee as a mentor, and then we moved to the IIT Mandi campus in Mandi, Himachal Pradesh. Our campus is also around 16 kilometers from Mandi town. So you are able to see Mandi is situated in Himachal Pradesh or in Himalayas, and a very famous hill stations known as Kullu and Manali is very near to us. So Kullu is almost 100 kilometer, Manali is something like 100 plus kilometer. And recently if you are aware of that, Prime Minister has inaugurated a longest tunnel in India, which is around 9 kilometer in near Manali. So that Atal tunnel is also very
अभी
near
सर
to
मैंने
us, and
बात की
you,
है
I
सेटिंग्स
hope you
मैंने
may
उनसे
find
बता दी थी सर
opportunity
ये
to
सेटिंग्स
visit
चाहिए तो
us
कह रहे थे कि
as
सर
well as to
तो ठीक है
visit that
सेटिंग्स
tunnel. That is a really engineering marvel. You may please find time. Fine. So whenever you are
हाँ
visiting in
टेस्ट
this
कर
north
लिया है
area,
सर
you
मैंने कई
please
बार
let
टेस्ट
us
कर
know.
लिया
So
है
we
चल
are
रहा है अभी
almost 450 kilometer from Delhi, and around 200
हाँ
kilometer
स्काइप
from
सेटिंग नहीं है सर उसमें
Chandigarh. So it's very beautiful place and beautiful campus we are able to establish here. Broadly, we are
ठीक
having
है सर
four schools and few research centers, like School of
जी
Computing
सर
and Electrical Engineering take care of electrical, computer science, electronics, and all area. School of Engineering take
ओके
care
सर
of different streams of engineering
ठीक है सर
like
वो लिंक
mechanical
लिंक
engineering,
क्लोज हो
civil,
जाएगी वहाँ से फिर ठीक है
geo, chemical, and
ओके सर
others. School of Basic Sciences take care
ओके
of
सर
all sciences, and School of Humanity and Social Sciences take care of management, economics, languages, philosophy, and all this. And we have established a very advanced research centers, mainly in the area of materials. And then in the area of electronics, we have a clean room facility of class 100, a very one of the unique facility in north of India. So you may find it useful. And as compared to the terrain here, the nature here, we have also established a center in the bio. Generally, we term this as a BioX center, which is also helping this area by providing the technical inputs. In School of Computing and Electrical Engineering, we offer BTech degree in Electrical Engineering, Computer Science. Recently, we have started in Data Science also. We are offering a master's program in Photonics and Drives, VLSI, Communication and Signal Processing. We are also offering a MS by Research, which is a 3 years of master's program, and PhD degrees also. So these are the what a School of Computing and Electrical Engineering offers. We are closely having 40 faculty members and more than 100 research scholars presently in the institute. So we'll be going to discuss something about the renewable energy, which is one of the key focus area of IIT Mandi also. And as I have mentioned, we are also working very actively in area of materials with different applications. So, and the second one is integrated mountain development through the civil, through the geo, and different aspects we are also working on. So these are the core, you can say, strengths what we have are able to develop at IIT Mandi. Now coming to the today's topic, we are aware of that there is a requirement for the clean energy to be utilized more and more in our power system. So this is what a requirement is there. There are many solutions are available, which is mostly are able to offer to transition to a clean, reliable, and affordable energy, which also provide a security of supply in a longer sense also, other than the sustainable manner. So one of the method which we are aware of, it is utilization of renewable energy. Others are going for a technology which will be able to utilize the fossil fuels in a more cleaner way. And the third aspects that we are aware of, that energy saving, energy efficiency is also one of the bigger issue that we have to see that how we will be able to incorporate in our practices of installation, practices of industry, so that we are able to achieve a better and better sustainable power supply in our country. So this is very important. Then we are also able to see, when we are talking about the renewable energy, we are able to see that wind and solar power are coming as a very big player, and they are able to provide a a avenue by which we will be able to provide the renewable energy in sustainable manner. So this is very much possible. And then second thing that we are able to see that the penetration of the wind and solar in our electricity grid is increasing, and we are able to see that the size becomes so big of wind farm and solar farm that they will be able to replace the conventional power sources also, which generally are based on thermal or big hydro power plants, where large synchronous machines are being used. So this is now we are able to see slowly it is happening. So there are many reasons why renewable energy is promoted in India. It is due to our concern to the security of supply, our concern due to the reducing the fossil fuel dependence. It's also due to the to have a certain climate change treaties that what government of India have signed. So all these have forced India to go towards more and more renewable energy. In last one decade, we are able to see our transition is getting very fast pace. Other things that we are also able to see, that government of India is also not only other than the promotion of the sustainable sources, but we are also able to see that there were certain reasons of power shortages were also there from last couple of decades, but slowly the India is now emerged as a self-sufficient in providing the electrical power supply based on our resources. So that is we are able to see. The second point that we are also able to see, the promotion of renewable energy, that technology is getting better and mature enough so that we are able to utilize this with a low subsidy provisions also. So this is what we are able to see. Government of India was so dedicated to promote such renewable energy sources. They established a complete ministry to take care and promote the renewable energy sources. And currently the name is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which is since 2006. So this ministry is promoting. The MNRE, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, has is able to divide the overall renewable energy scenario in many domains. The one of the domain is grid integration or grid interactive renewable power. Another one is known as off-grid power. So this is we are able to have, and then next categories are to promote, especially for the rural areas, promote the direct solar energy in the form of solar thermal or solar light. So these are the some of the energy that we are able to see. In a grid integrated renewable energy, we are able to see the wind, solar, small hydropower, and biomass based energy resources are gaining some momentum, and we are also able to see the geothermal and the tidal energy is having very low contribution, but still the technology is maturing in this area. The MNRE has and with other power utilities like Central Electricity Authority or Central Electricity Regulatory Commissions are able to provide many technical as well as regulatory frameworks which will be able to provide a solutions for easy integration of renewable energy sources. So some of the regulatory reforms is based on like Open Access Act of 2003, then by providing preferential tariffs, then with certain subsidies for the renewable energy which are a bit costlier. So this is what certain regulatory frameworks provided by the many utilities. We are also able to see that slowly due to the competition and the certain market mechanism that what we are able to utilize in India, we are able to see that the prices of solar is reduced drastically. So this is also a regulatory mechanism is there. So the government of India has also established a large infrastructure in the terms of power transfer capability between the different regions where the more resources are available or where the more low demand is there, and a huge infrastructure has been created. But still we are able to see that certain pockets of renewable energy sources like Gujarat, Rajasthan, or Tamil Nadu, where high wind and solar potentials are available, sometimes there is a problem of evacuation of power, renewable power from source and towards the lowlands. And many times a curtailment is also there. So to address this, the Power Grid PGCIL is also establishing a completely green corridor, which will be helpful for evacuation of large renewable power from source towards the different part of country where the loads are there, as well as the hydropower from the northeast. So this green corridor is also slowly coming into the system. So this is what a infrastructure improvement is happening. When we are talking about the installed generation capacity, then we are able to see that we are having a good installed capacity of wind as well as the solar. Solar has took a tremendous jump from last couple of years in reaching to up to 34 gigawatt, and overall 87 gigawatt of renewable energy we are able to have it installed as an installed capacity. And we are able to see that still the thermal power is having a higher capacity of 230 gigawatt in overall installed generation capacity manner. To promote the renewable energy, we are having dedicated research centers also, which is mainly participating in promoting the renewable energy by providing a technical certification, device certification, as well as by providing different type of regulatory mechanisms also. For wind, it is Center for Wind Energy Technology in Chennai, and for solar, it is Solar Energy Research Center, Gurgaon, EHEC at IIT Roorkee, and other renewable energy resources. Promotions are also there. These are the national institute and promoting the renewable energy by providing a technical inputs. So this is what our serious efforts are there in promoting the renewable energy sources. Then Government of India came up with a very important mission known as Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission to promote the solar, specifically solar rooftop as well as solar thermal based systems in our power grid in a grid integrated as well as off-grid manner, and target was very ambitious, something like 100 gigawatt of solar power by 2022, and continuously our efforts are there to achieve this. And this also promotes a other way of utilizing the solar in our society. But as compared to the North America or Europe, we are able to see that our society is already utilizing the availability of solar by in our day-to-day life, and this is really at very higher side. We are able to see a simple example is like a dryer, which is generally used in North America or Europe for drying the clothes, but mostly we are utilizing as a natural sun for such purposes. So this is how traditionally we are utilizing this. Now coming to a point where we are able to see that what is the factor which is really forcing towards a sustainability in the electrical energy sector. The one of the key terms, if you are able to heard anywhere or sometimes, that known as renewable purchase obligation. What is this RPO? So RPO is the minimum requirement of renewable energy utilization in a particular state. These RPO targets are given by State Electricity Regulatory Commission. So it means if state is able to utilize 100 unit of energy in a particular financial year or a year, then it is expected that there certain amount of energy utilization should be from the renewable energy. So this is known as RPO, and based on the availability of the resources in that state, every state electricity regulatory commission is then deciding this RPO target, and which is also variable in year to year. So this is a target is there. So earlier this target, RPO target, was very lenient in terms of fulfilling. Many states were not able to address this, but some of the states which are having good renewable resources with them, they are able to, you can say, over jump these type of targets. But slowly we are able to see the state electricity regulatory commissions are getting stricter and stricter in imposing the penalties, etc., so that these targets should be met by each state, so that we are able to meet our targets of meeting a promotion of renewable energy in certain value, so that we will be able to reach to uh, a a a level where we are able to meet our treaties or agreements that we have signed nationally or internationally. So this is what we are able to see. Now coming to more in a technical side, so we are able to see that whenever a renewable energy penetration is increasing, then we are able to see that there are certain issues are there, technical issues that need to be addressed. But why these technical issues are coming? So this is a important point that we have to understand, that whenever we are talking about wind and solar power, we are able to see there is not a very big single power plant is there. There are thousands of generators, wind generators are lying there, of having a capacity from few hundred of kilowatts to few megawatts. And then there are solar farms are there, where large number of solar PV plants are connected in series and parallel fashion to make up a very big solar farm. So controlling of such thousands of generators, wind generators or solar PV panels, is one of the key issues that is to be addressed. So that's why we need to address a grid connection requirements, or sometimes known as grid codes, which is given by central electricity authorities, which need to be achieved. So whenever we are having a large synchronous machine, very big synchronous machine, if it is to be replaced by thousands of generators, then we have to see that how this thousand of generations, smaller generation, would be able to address the grid codes, which is earlier were met by a single large synchronous machine. So that is one of the a challenges there. When the penetration of wind and solar was very small, such type of expectations was not also there. So it means if there is some issue in the grid, the abnormal conditions are there in the grid, such type of generation which is very small in penetration like wind and solar, they can simply get disconnected from the grid, and the role of maintaining the primary and secondary control was easily taken care by the large synchronous machines. But as we are able to see that penetration is higher side, the large synchronous machines are getting replaced by this renewable energy sources. And then if there is an abnormal condition in the grid, the small asynchronous generations or this renewable energy cannot be simply disconnected. They need to remain connected and to participate in the maintaining the grid. So this is how there are many technical constraints are slowly coming and to be imposed on the renewable energy, which need to be addressed. In today's talk, we will be able to see what are those technical constraints are there, technical requirements are there, and how a simple wind generator would be able to able to meet such requirements. So this is what overall our talk is there. Other issues with high penetration of renewable energy sources is known as intermittency, that we are aware of, that energy which is coming from the nature, wind and solar, is not in our control, it is in control of nature. And that's why certain issues that we need to address, which is something like that dispatch and schedule of renewable energy sources, is one of the issues. As well as another issue was there, which India is able to resolve by providing a regulatory mechanism known as a higher cost with renewable energy sources, with a good bidding mechanisms and other regulatory frameworks. These costs with a maturing of technology is got reduced. So with this, I would like to take a break here and would be happy if is there any concern or queries here. So please feel free to let me know. If you like to raise as a discussion, please let me know whatever I'm able to cover till now. No queries? Okay, so it means we are able to understand whatever is going on, but please don't hesitate. You may please let me know, right? Okay, so fine. Then whatever we have discussed here, then we can see that there are two type of issues are there. One is that technical issue, grid connection issues, grid codes are there, and then economic issues, that how to remunerate or reimburse the renewable energy sources so that they will be able to compete with the other smaller or economic cost effective resources. These are the two things are there, so that need to be addressed in simultaneously to promote the renewable energy resources are there. That can be addressed by providing grid codes, by providing regulatory framework, and then we have to see that these grid codes, regulatory framework should be such that they should not be harm the progress of the renewable energy sources, but promote them with a certain technical requirement so that our grid is also stable and secure. So this is what we are expected. So what are the grid connection issues? So we are able to see grid connection codes or grid connection issues are the minimum technical requirements given to the certain sources so that they can connect it to the grid and will be able to participate in the power exchange. So this is what is expected. What are the grid codes? There are some of the grid codes are listed here. We'll be going to discuss each grid code in detail. The broader grid codes that we are able to see are written here, known as active power or frequency regulation, reactive power, and the voltage control, fault right through capability, the meaning that whenever the faults are there in the system, how a particular resource would be able to overcome such type of abnormal condition, remain connected to the grid and able to participate in the power exchange. Then there are certain other issues are there, that certain way of getting connected to the grid and to provide the power supply as per the schedule and to be get dispatched in a as per the demand and the promises what has been done. So for that, a forecasting is also very important. We are able to see that the forecasting is having certain error margin always, and we are able to see that 8 to 10% of forecasting error generally remains there. So that what is a regulatory mechanism is provided so that this error margin can be addressed also. So we are able to see that such type of regulatory frameworks are also provided by Central Electricity Authority so that our renewable energy sources with certain forecasting error can also participate and will be able to update their generation schedule multiple times also. So this is there. The next issue that we are able to understand and see that, which is a augmentation of existing power transmission line, which is already happening by having a grid code, and the second point is interconnection point, or sometimes known as point of common coupling. there is the point of component coupling will be going to discuss in coming few slides. So this talk, while meeting the grid connection requirement, is more focused on the wind rather than solar, and we would be able to see that how wind energy conversion system is able to meet certain technical requirements. So what is the wind power? Wind power is the kinetic energy available in a moving wind and can be converted by using a wind turbine and generator, and which will be the generator will be able to generate electricity which can be fed to the grid also. So how much energy is available? These expressions are given here. We are able to see that kinetic energy is available as half mv square, mass of the moving object, and v is the velocity of the wind. So here you will be able to see that in a relation that velocity of wind is coming as a v square. So as the velocity of the wind is increasing of a certain side, then the outcome is getting squared. So this is important to identify a good site as well as on deciding of the height of a hub based on the tower. So this is there. Then what is the mass of the moving air? It is expression is given as rho density into A into D, where this is area is generally known as rotor blade swept area, the area which is swept by the rotor blades, and this area is being considered in this calculation. And the power is given as half O rho A V cube. So here we are able to see that velocity term is now coming as a cube when we are talking about the power. So this becomes very important factor in identifying a good site for the wind farm installation. Based on these estimates, a very old data is saying that that India is having availability of as a potential sites is of 46 gigawatt based on 1% of land availability, but slowly we are able to identify many good sites based on a increased height of the hub of a wind energy conversion system due to the increase in the technology, increasing in the height of tower, and this potential is now generally known as around double of this, means around close to 100 gigawatt of wind potential is available in Indian geographical conditions. So this is, we are having a good. So let me just skip this slide. This is, we have already talked. Now coming to this wind energy conversion scheme, there are many type of generators are there, many type of configurations are there. The left hand side diagram you are able to see, it is a wind energy conversion system where wind power is captured by a blade mechanism generally known as wind power rotor, and this rotor wind power turbine or wind power rotor is connected to a electrical generator which is able to transform mechanical energy into electrical energy. Based on the certain technology, a gearbox is also used. For some of the technology, gearbox is optional. The reason here is the wind turbines are generally operating at a low speed, generally 15 to 18 meter per second RPM, revolution per minute, and this is based on the maximum power or the efficiency curve by which a maximum power can be transferred from moving winds to the mechanical energy. So this is how, what is the speed. But the electrical generators are moving at a higher speed. Their size is also low due to this reason. So that's why we are able to use a generator which of a higher rotational speed. So that's why a gearbox is required. Once the power is coming from the generator, certain generators based on their configuration, they will be able, can be connected directly to the supply grid and will be able to transfer the power. But some of the generators which are generating a power which is not specified as per the grid voltage and frequency, that need to be processed through power electronic converters, which converts the power which is generated by the generator, which is mostly the AC power is transferred to the AC, which is suitable to be connected to the supply grid. And to match the voltage level, a power transformers are generally used. The mostly the generators which are used, induction generator which are used for the wind energy conversion system, are of rating of a few hundred of volts. So, and the supply grid which is generally available to the wind farms are of either 11 kV or 36 kV. So this few hundred of volts to 11 kV or 33 kV transformers are required to be connected. So this is how we are able to see. Sometimes each wind energy conversion system, wind tower, is having a small transformer which is like transforming from 590 volt to 11 kV. The whole wind farm is working at 11 kV, and then this 11 kV to 33 kV or 11 kV to 66 kV or 11 kV to 132 kV transformers are also available, which transform the overall power to a higher voltage level to be connected to the grid. So there are many such configurations, and based on the availability of the electric grid is possible. We will be going to discuss different type of generator to be utilized by wind energy conversion in coming few slides. So if you are having any query, any doubt, then please let me know. If you would like to raise any question or anything, then please let me know.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So please feel free to stop me in between also. Please don't wait that whenever I am calling, then you are stopping me. So you may please let me know. The one of the generator system which is installed in India from 80s onward, or you can say up to start of this century, was based on the squirrel cage induction generator. We are already aware of squirrel cage is a rotor construction, a short-circuited rotor, an induction generator. It is connected to a wind turbine. Gearbox is also optional in that scheme, and induction generator is connected to the grid through a transformer. And to provide a reactive power supply and to have a better power factor here, a capacitor bank is also utilized, so that a reactive power can be also be given to the induction generator and need not to be taken from the grid. So this is what is there. So this scheme was very cost economic, having a you can say very robust construction, very less maintenance, and work very well. And many thousands of such generators got installed in India and worldwide for power induction. So this is one of the things. But only one issue was there, that certain grid codes compatibility was not with this scheme, like reactive power supply is not available here. For thread through capability is also weak. So it means this simply get disconnected from the grid. As well as is there any wind gust is there, so this induction generator is simply get disconnected from the grid. So that's why by having a very robust construction, maintenance free also, but meeting a grid connection requirement is not possible with this scheme until unless some more additional subsystem or component should be added to that. Now please see this three schemes here. The topmost scheme is known as the wound rotor induction generator. So all these three schemes which are shown here are generally known as variable speed converter interface systems. The advantage of the variable speed we'll be going to discuss in the coming slide, that how these variable speed systems are working. But the advantage here is that from the same side, same rating of wind energy conversion system, if a system is of a variable speed system, they will be able to have a more energy output with the same conditions. So in this case, some of the researchers are saying that this energy output can go up to 30% also. So it depends on wind site also. So 30% energy can be captured from the same wind farm, same you can say wind resources, if variable speed system is there. So wound rotor induction generator, as an electrical engineer, we are aware of, this is a induction machine having a rotor connection or rotor terminals available to us. The rotor is not a short circuit rotor having a winding, and the through a slip ring mechanism, terminals are out, and the speed can be controlled by providing a variable resistance in the rotor circuit. So this is a very simple scheme. By providing this, a variable speed system can be made, and based on this, the speed can be controlled, and hence we are able to take care of by having a more amount of energy from this scheme. So this is a additional scheme to what we have discussed in the previous slide, known as squirrel cage induction generator. Now see the middle figure here. The middle figure is consists of a generator which is having squirrel cage induction generator or synchronous generator or permanent magnet synchronous generator. In PMSG, generally the gearbox is optional. So squirrel cage induction generator, the construction is already aware. We are aware of that rotor is of having a squirrel cage, that short circuited rotor. Now here you will be able to see that in a stator, connections are connected to a power tonic circuit, and which is connected to the electric grid. So this power tonic circuits, which is shown here as AC to AC, what is the meant of that? This power tonic converter is able to take a power which is AC which is coming from this generator, which is of any frequency, any voltage level, and it is able to transform to a AC supply once again, which is specified voltage and specified frequency, and that's why this can be connected to the grid and the power can be fed to the grid. So this scheme is there. The advantage of this scheme is that this power tonic equipment is able to take care of making the power which is more suitable to be connected to the grid and can be fed back. So that's why the squirrel cage induction generator, SG or PMSG, can be of any design which is more suitable to get the more amount of power. So these schemes can also be just a moment please. Hello, मैं आपको कॉल बैक करता हूँ, मैं कॉल. Okay. So these schemes are able to work in a variable speed mode, able to generate more amount of power from the same site, and able to meet the grid connection requirement also by utilizing this power electronic equipment. Now you please see the third scheme. The third scheme, which is bottom figure, left hand side, which is known as doubly fed induction generator. So this is also induction generator, wound rotor induction generator, but the name doubly fed is there because in this case the rotor and the stator of the induction generator is connected to the grid and will be able to supply the power into the machine, or will be able to take the power out of this machine. Because this machine can be fed from two sides, one from the stator, one from the rotor. That's why this name is there, doubly fed induction generator. But as compared to the middle figure, you are able to see that bottom figure, the difference here is that the power tonic converters are placed in the rotor circuit. The power tonic components are placed in the rotor circuit, and then this rotor circuit is once again connected to the stator side. So this scheme is very famous and sometimes known as slip power recovery scheme also. So in this scheme, we are able to utilize the rotor power, which is, if in certain case, if it is coming out, can be taken, then this AC can be converted into AC, which is more suitable to be fed back to the grid and can be fed back to the grid by using this shunt transformer. So this is a scheme is there. The variable speed operation generally requires 30% for a you can say at a with reference to the base speed. So that's why the rating of this power tonic component is only 30% of this stator rating. So it means the rating of this power tonic component as compared to the middle figure is almost 1/3. So here we are able to see there is a huge saving in terms of component cost, because the rating of the power converter is just 1/3. So, and this rating is based on how much rotor power is being processed, and this rotor power is dependent on how much the speed variation we are able to take care. So generally, if we are able to take a analytical expressions, the rotor power is given as slip times of stator power, S times of the stator power. The slip, which is we are aware of, is a concept which is saying that how much rotor is lagging behind or moving fast as compared to the synchronous speed. So that is the slip term we are able to take. So generally for a 30% of slip range, we are able to take that this is 30% of rotor power is going to be processed through the rotor. And in this case, the rating of the partonic component becomes very less. Now you are also able to see that stator is directly connected to the grid. So it means the power quality is also better in as compared to the middle scheme, because completely the power is being processed by the partonic converters. In this case, the power is mostly it is fed directly to the grid, and some power is taken from the rotor side and which is being processed and being fed back to the grid. So what is the advantage of this scheme? The first advantage of the scheme is that the size of the partonic converter is very less. That's why the cost of this scheme is less. The next advantage is that power quality is better. The third advantage is that the overall size and the weight reduction is also there. Then there are certain advantages are there of control of this machine in such a sense that controllability is also easy. So these are the certain advantages are there with this scheme, and especially due to the cost reduction as compared to the middle scheme, this DFID scheme is the most popular scheme in the wind energy conversion system, and the most wind energy conversion system which are installed worldwide is based on this WFET induction generator. So with this, I would like to take a small break, and then please let me know if there is any query. Is there any question or query? Fine. Okay. So how this WFET induction generator is operating? The concept is a very basic. The rotor power you can compare from the topmost figure, that when the power is being extracted from the rotor by having a variable resistance, in this case a partonic converter is there, it is also able to extract a power, and this power, instead of wasting in a variable resistance, can be converted back to a suitable AC of specified voltage and frequency and can send it to the grid. So here the whatever the power earlier is being wasted in the resistance can be utilized back. So this is how a some efficiency improvement is also there. So the rotor power, when it is extracted, the control of the speed is now with this rotor side partonic converter. So this scheme becomes a variable speed scheme. In certain cases, the power can also be fed back to this rotor. Power can fed back to the rotor, and then speed can be taken above the synchronous speed. So that is also possible. So the subsynchronous, below synchronous speed, or super synchronous, above synchronous speed, all such operations are possible while controlling this rotor side partonic converter, and hence this machine can work as a generator. This machine can work as a generator in very wide range of speed above and below synchronous speed, and this power is also being utilized and is not wasted. So this scheme becomes very important. If we are not talking about the renewable energy as a wind turbine, even this scheme as a electric drive, the rotor side converter is also being utilized in a very large naval ship, where this rotor side converters are also having a rating equivalent to the stator rating and can act as a very good electric drive. And in this case, the power processing can be double of what is the stator power is there, because stator power is giving let a certain amount, then rotor can also give a certain amount. So that's why this same machine can be act as with the same rating can act as a for a processing of double of the power of the rating. So that is also possible and generally used in other form of electric drive. So that's why the scheme becomes very popular and got installed. Fine. Now we will be able to understand from this slides and some of the curves that why the variable speed wind generator schemes are there, and how the efficiency is more. Now please see the uppermost expression known as power from a wind turbine rotor. It is given as half rho a VQ, which is we have already derived, and then there is a factor is there known as CP, known as power coefficient. Have you heard about this factor somewhere earlier? What is this factor? This factor is given theoretically by a limit known as Betts limit. This is a very interesting and nice derivation is there, very small derivation, that what is the Bet limits, and I suggest you that please find some time in seeing that derivation. It is mostly about the fluid flow. From that or some basic mechanical engineering lectures, you will be able to find out the Bet limits calculation. So this Betts limit is saying that for a case of power which is coming to a wind turbine, which is being transferred from kinetic energy to a mechanical energy, can be transferred theoretically at a maximum by only 59%. We are not able to transfer 100% of renewable energy or wind energy to the mechanical energy. So this is the theoretical limit. Now, if you see the right hand side figure, top figure, tip speed ratio versus power coefficient, you can see the top point here is 59%. And when we are going for actual wind turbine, we are going to have only 30, we are able to transfer something like 40%. So this is what a limits are saying. How this limit is coming? Now see, you are able to see in the middle of the slide, there is a relation is given known as power coefficient varies with tip speed ratio, which is given as lambda. Now this figure, right hand side figure, top figure, you are able to see this is what is being plotted, that how this CP, power coefficient, is going to vary with the tip speed ratio. So this is a curve, and this curve is having zero at some point and maximum at some point. What is that maximum when it is coming out? This is coming out a certain tip speed ratio. What is this tip speed ratio? Lambda. Lambda is given as a ratio of R omega by V omega. What is this R omega? R is known as radius, or what is, let first see that what is this tip speed ratio. Tip speed ratio is a ratio between tip of a blade, the speed of a tip of a blade divided by the different wind speeds. Your tip speed ratio is going to vary, and this may not be the always a maximum point of this power coefficient curve versus tip speed ratio curve. So it means if your system is a variable speed system, we will be able to achieve always a maximum power point, and this is a algorithm generally known as MPPT, maximum power point tracking, and MPPT algorithm, by which we will be able to always vary the speed of our system based on what is the speed of the wind speed, so that we are always working at a operating point which is maximum. Now please see the right hand side below figure. This figure is in the terms of generator, electrical generator, which is all these characteristics is being transferred to the electrical generator. So before, if you are having any question, then please let me know. If you are having any question, then please let me know.
Participants, if you
Okay. Yeah. If is there any question, then please let me know. Otherwise, please see this right hand side figure. This right hand side figure, you are able to see there are many characteristics are shown. These characteristics are written as 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 meter per second. So this is the wind speeds. These are the characteristics obtained from in the term refer to the stator of a generator in the terms of power kilowatt. So we are able to see that these characteristics are having a maximum point at certain y-axis is given in power kilowatt, x-axis is given as a generator speed. So let's see 12 meter per second characteristics. So this 12 meter per second characteristics of wind speed is having a maximum somewhere at 1800 rpm. So it means our speed of a whole system is operating at a 1800 meter per second, sorry, 1800 rpm. Then we will be obtaining a maximum power at wind speed of 12 meter per second. Let we are able to achieve this point. Suddenly, let wind speed is changing from 12 meter per second to 10 meter per second. Then it means if we are still working at 1800 rpm, our maximum point as per the 10 meter per second characteristic is not there. It means we have to move bit towards the left hand side, and if we are able to achieve a 1500 rpm, once again we are at the maximum point of a characteristics which is of 10 meter per second wind speed. So this is overall a maximum power point tracking algorithm is there, which is just a lookup table in which wind speed is characteristics are saved as per the wind speed versus you can say generator speed. So based on the certain wind speed, we have to just find out what should be the rotational speed reference point should be given to our control algorithm, so that the overall generator can be made to that reference speed as per the characteristics of a wind turbine system. So this is why a variable speed systems are required to obtain more energy from the given wind as compared to a fixed speed system. Fine. So with this understanding, let's quickly go for the grid connection requirements. As we have discussed, there are four major grid connection requirements: active power, reactive power, voltage control, fault right through capability. We will be able to discuss this. The first one is the active power control. Active power control. Now, what is the active power control? The active power control is expected that the active power output from a wind generator should be controlled. How we are able to control? If the wind speed is changing, our output of a wind turbine is also changing, the wind energy conversion system is changing, and it means the output power which is coming from a wind farm or a wind generator can be controlled remotely by having certain you can say certain manner. The first one is known as ramping control. The ramping control means if a wind is changing from like 0 meter per second to 12 meter per second very shortly, but we should not be able to operate our wind farm with certain increase. That's why grid code is saying that there is a ramp increase is also there, and that ramp should be followed rather than a very fast increase. The second one is known as fast down regulation. The meaning is that suddenly a grid is at abnormal condition and we need to reduce the output from a wind farm, then this control ability should be available with the operator so that the fast down regulation can be done. Now the next thing is that whatever active power output is coming from the wind farm should be controllable in such a manner that this set point from the wind farm in the terms of active power can be changed as per the requirement of the grid. And the finally, which is more strict requirement, is there known as automatic frequency control. It means automatic frequency control is saying that as the frequency is changing in the grid, the wind farm should be able to increase or decrease the active power so that it can participate in maintaining a frequency control. Here we are able to see that it is not possible in a sense because the wind is not in our control. That's why we are not able to increase the output power from a wind farm. So this is a limitation is there. How to address this limitation? Because you are not increase the wind active power from the wind farm because wind is not in our control. So one solution which is provided here by the many researchers and generally being adopted is that the wind energy conversion system, when it is rotating, it is having certain energy as a kinetic energy stored in inertia of a rotating mass. So some of the control schemes are taking the energy from this rotating mass momentarily and feeding to the grid so that the frequency can be maintained. So this is one of the possibility. And then the speed of this overall wind energy converter system can be maintained once again to a desired speed after some time. So this is one of the scheme. Second requirement generally now people are talking about, and this may be going to be implemented, is that instead of operating at a maximum operating point, maximum power point, the wind farm should be able to set its active power output let 10% below this. So it means for a given wind speed, if a 100 unit of electricity can be generated from a wind energy conversion system, the set point is set at 90 unit. It means we are continuously wasting 10 unit of electricity. But what is the advantage? Advantage is that as soon as frequency regulation is required, we will be able to increase from 90 to 100. So this means there is a wastage of energy continuously, but there is a capability is also there to participate in the frequency control. So this is what now this curve you are able to see. This is from Indian grid code. This curve is expecting that once the frequency is beyond 50 hertz, the output of wind farm should be reduced, and in a certain RAM it is shown here. And still, if beyond 51.5, wind farm should reduce its output power to a zero value to maintain the frequency of the system. So this is what a active power control is there. So whatever I have discussed, it is also written in more, you can say, by giving some data and some limits. It is also written in this. I hope I will be able to share the slides. You will be able to refer them. So this data is basically from the Indian grid codes about fast down regulation and frequency control, etc. So I will now come directly to the reactive power or the voltage control. The meaning of reactive power and the voltage control is reactive power or voltage control is that the wind farm or solar farm should be able to have a reactive power exchange with the grid. In ideal condition, there should be a geo-reactive exchange, but if the grid wants, the wind farm should be able to inject a reactive power or should be able to take the reactive power. But now there is an important question is there. We are able to see that in most of the wind energy conversion system, induction generator is used. If the induction generator is used, induction generator inherently is not able to generate the reactive power. They require a reactive power from the grid to magnetize its air gap and for its operation. So how a induction generator based wind energy conversion system will be able to give a reactive power instead of taking? So this question is addressed by using power electronic converters. By utilizing this power electronic converters, the overall wind energy conversion system will be able to inject the reactive power as well as will be able to take the reactive power based on the ratings of the converters and in the machine. So this is very much possible. So this can be addressed. So some of the such curves which are shown here is required. The below figure is from a German grid code. This is a very strict requirement. Now please see this red line left hand side. The left hand side is saying that that x-axis is reduction in the voltage, that voltage sag is there or the voltage is reduced due to some fault. If the voltage is reduced to a 50% to the rated value, then the reactive power requirement from the grid under this condition is 100% or the 1 per unit. The meaning that if your machine is rated of let 5 megawatt or let 5 MVA, so if the voltage is reduced to a 50%, then this 5 MVA wind turbine or wind energy conversion system should be injecting the 5 MVAr to the grid. So this is a very strict grid code, but by utilizing the power electronic converter, it is possible to inject such amount of reactive power. In addition to this, if a alone wind energy conversion system is not able to inject this power, then it is expected that they should be having a static compensator, SVC or any other flex devices to meet such reactive power requirements also. So that is also possible. It need not to be that every wind turbine should be able to meet all grid codes individually. So in a collective manner, as a wind farm manner, they will be able to by utilizing certain flex devices. This is also very much possible. So this we are able to discuss. The next important thing, what is being expected from the wind farms nowadays, is known as capability curve. Earlier we used to have a capability curve of synchronous machine, but now this induction generator based machine also a capability curve is required. This capability curve is actually for overall induction machine as well as the wind converters. We'll be going to discuss if the time permits. The next requirement is known as fault right through. The fault right through is requirement so that the generator remains connected to the grid and is able to supply the active and reactive power as per the grid requirement. They should not simply get disconnected from the grid during the abnormal conditions. So this is what a requirement is there. Now please see this figure. This is also from a German grid code. We are also having an Indian grid code based diagram. I will let you know, but please see this figure here. Y-axis is about how much voltage is there of the grid where the wind energy converter system is connected. The x-axis is talking about the time in millisecond. The red solid line is saying that if the voltage is reduced to 0 during 0 to 150 millisecond, wind farm should remain connected to the grid. So above this red line, the wind farm should remain connected to the grid and there should be no tripping. Even the voltage is 0 at the grid for 0 to 150 millisecond. Below this right hand side red line, the wind farms can disconnect it slowly from the grid, but in a phase-wise manner, if still the voltage is below this red and thick. So this is how a requirement is there for the fault right through. But you can see the zone number 2. In the zone number 2, we are able to see that certain relaxation is there, that if the wind farms, they should not get disconnected, but short-term interruption is possible, but no tripping. What is the meaning of short-term interruption? We will be going to see the coming slide for the case of amplified induction generator. That what is the short-term interruption is there, and this is allowed to protect the wind energy conversion system. So this is known as fault right through capability. In this diagram below, you are able to see these are the fault right through capability curves for Indian grid code, and it is based on what voltage level the wind farm is connected, and the certain time limits are also there, which is you are able to see 100 millisecond for 800 kV and for 400 kV it is for 160 millisecond for 220 and 132 kV. So this is there. But in this case, you are able to see Indian grid code is expecting the voltage should not be below 15%. So this is a not so strict as compared to the German grid code, right? If you are having any doubt till now, then please let me know. If you are having any doubt, then please let me know. Okay, so here similar to the lower voltage known as LVRT, low voltage right through capability, there is also a fault right through capability known as over voltage right through capability, which is shown by this table. If the voltage is going beyond a certain voltage level, then the wind farm can disconnect it after certain time period, which is also given here. Now let me come about the power quality. Power quality standards need to be meet. IEEE 519 is there. IEC standard 61400 is also there for wind turbine. So there are depends on which country and which type of standard they are following. Generally, India is following the IEC standard, so that is to be expected to meet whenever the grid connected wind turbines are there. So overall, we are able to see that at a point of common coupling where wind or solar infrastructure is meeting with the grid infrastructure, all these requirements to be met at this point of common coupling. So this should be very clear, because in India, every state is having a different definition of point of common coupling that need to be addressed. Then we are able to see individual wind farm can be augmented to meet the grid codes. Otherwise, a additional add-on equipment can be added known as FEX devices, SPC, simple capacitor bank also, so that such type of grid codes can be can be meet. So this is what a technical requirements are there, and overall in a sense is to be meet. Now the next thing is that the grid codes are required for a stable and secure operation of the power system. But this grid code should not be become so strict so that the cost of the individual wind farm or solar farm becomes so high that they are not viable enough in the terms of economics. So it means a balance is required. Next point is that this is a technical challenge as a engineers to us, that how we will be able to update our technology, how we are able to find out the technical solutions so that we will be able to meet the grid code in a best possible manner. So this is also is available to us. So this is inferences that we are able to discuss. Now coming to this WFET induction generator and see how it is operating. Then I can show you some result how it is operating. So still, if you are having any doubt, etc., then please let me know, or any point that you would like to raise. Okay, so still no questions, then please see this WFET induction generator. We have already talked about the variable speed system. We have already talked about the different type of grid connection requirements, and let's see how this WFET induction generator will be able to meet some of the grid codes. Fine. In this case, DFIG, you are able to see this is connected to the grid, and in the rotor side there are two converters are there known as back-to-back power electronic converter. One is RSC known as rotor side converter, and another one is LSC known as line side converter. So what is this converter and what is the control objective of this converter? The rotor side converter is able to inject or able to take power out from the rotor of this DFIG, and it is able to control the speed of this WFET induction generator based on what is a wind speed, and hence it will be able to make this system as a variable speed system and able to operate a maximum power point tracking algorithm also, and able to control the stator active and reactive power. This rotor side converter, by utilizing DC link capacitor, is able to inject a reactive power required by the WFET induction generator, and hence this DFIG doesn't want any reactive power from the grid side. All of its reactive power requirement is met by the rotor side converter. If the grid wants a reactive power, the rotor side converter even can inject more amount of reactive power, which can then transfer from rotor to the air gap and air gap to the stator, and can fed to the grid. So it means by utilizing a control of rotor side converter, the DFIG can be made as a zero reactive power exchange with the point of common coupling, and even beyond that it can provide the reactive power support to the grid also. Similarly, it can absorb the reactive power based on the requirement also. So this is how a reactive power requirement by operating a rotor side converter can be obtained. Fine. The rating of this rotor side converter should be appropriately to incorporate these control functions. Now coming to this line side converter. The line side converter is having a role to maintain this DC link voltage constant, because as the rotor side converter is either feeding the power or taking the power out, the voltage, DC link voltage, is going to be changed. So the main role of this line side converter is to always maintain this DC link voltage. So it means to take the power out from this DC link or inject the power out from the DC link in both direction power flow. So, and power can be extracted from the grid or can be injected into the grid. So this is what a role of this line side converter. Now please see, if this line side converter alone can be seen, then this is just act as a static compensator or active power filter. It can act as a static compensator also as to provide the reactive power support, as well as it can act as a active power filter alone also. If the control ability is being provided, then it can address the power quality as well as the reactive power also. So this is the line side converter. Its rating should also need to be augmented to have this control option. Now let's see if there is a fault is happening. Now let's see if there is a fault is happening in the grid. So as soon as the grid is having a fault, a current is going to increase in this rotor loop. and this may damage the Powatonic converter. Now the question here is that how the doubly fed induction generator is able to take care of this high current and able to retain its normal operation, or to inject the active and reactive power based on the grid connection requirements. The first method by which this can be controlled is given as a chopper which is connected into a DC link. This chopper is having a resistance, and by operating this chopper based on the high current, the resistance can be utilized to dissipate this high energy or high amount of current, so that the DC link voltage and the current can remain limited into this rotor circuit. And some of the researchers are able to tell that this chopper alone is able to sustain different type of very severe faults which is happening to the grid. So this technology is there, and it is even transferred to the implementation. It is being utilized in the doubly fed induction generator as in a real wind farms. Sometimes if this chopper is still not able to persist the fault, then a crowbar which is connected into the rotor circuit of a doubly fed induction generator can come into the picture. What is crowbar is there? Crowbar is known as a non-linear resistances which are controlled by some Powatonic semiconductor switches which is connected here. So how this is working? If the chopper is not able to control or dissipate the extra amount of energy into the rotor circuit, crowbar will come into the picture. Crowbar is also having a resistances, but once the crowbar is coming into the picture, it will make a doubly fed induction generator as a dead short circuit in the rotor side, and it means this simply become a squirrel cage induction generator. During that time, or during the operation of crowbar, the rotor side converter, line side converter, these are not into a circuit, and this machine is just acting as a squirrel cage induction generator. This is what known as short-term interruption. If you remember from this slide, I have talked about possible short-term interruption is there. This is the meaning of possible short-term interruption, where the wind generator is partially get disconnected from the grid. Rotor side is not working, but generator is still connected to the grid and able to supply the active power to the grid. But during this time, if the squirrel cage induction generator is now there due to the crowbar operation, who is going to provide the reactive power support? Because rotor side converter is not connected. So during this time, line side converter can be act as a static compensator and will be able to feed the required reactive power for the operation of DFIG as well as the grid requirement. Is there any question that you would like to ask?
Good morning, sir. Sir, regarding the chopper operation, that is during normal operation, when rotor side converter and line side converters are working normally, what will be the condition of the chopper? Duty cycle, full duty cycle, or?
During normal operation, the chopper is not, you can say, active, and it is not into the operation. So it is simply, you can say, disconnected from the DC link side. It is not doing anything. As soon as the requirement is there, then there is a signal is coming to this chopper, and then chopper get activated. So this is how it is working. And if the chopper is also not able to sustain the fault, then a signal is going to the crowbar for its operation. And once the crowbar operation is also over, then based on what is the grid voltage and frequency, the control set point is being set for the doubly fed induction generator, so that once the crowbar is coming out of the system will be able to remain, you can say, can connected and can operate properly. So there is a control sequence is there for all these three operations.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
And exactly how this chopper is working, I think we need to find out a couple of research papers or some manufacturer's data sheet to see that how this control is happening. So for that, that need to be taken in. Okay, so this is how it is working. And now some researchers are also able to suggest a third converter known as series grid side converter, which is shown in this diagram, which is utilizing a same DC link voltage but injecting a voltage into a series of the stator and the grid. So this series voltage, when it is injected, is able to do some compensation, series compensation for the operation of DFIG. The reason why the series grid side converter is being suggested by some of the research paper, the reason is that the W-fed induction generator during the abnormal condition is having a huge oscillations. We have also done a small signal analysis of that, and we are able to see that there are two poorly damped poles are there in the stator flux, which is giving a main role of a huge oscillation in the voltages, flux, and the currents, and directly which is coming as a torque oscillation. By providing this series compensation, this stator flux poorly damped poles are having a higher damping, and these oscillations are getting reduced. So this some of the results I am having with me. These are the converter control schemes. I have already briefed. The left hand side is for the rotor side converter. You can see there is a set point is there for active and reactive power. The active set point is coming from the maximum power point tracking algorithm. Then there is a current control loops are there. Right hand side, we are able to see the grid side converter is having a responsibility of maintaining the DC link voltage. That's why you can see VDC is reference is compared with the actual VDC, and this current control loop is there. The grid side converter below control loop is for the reactive power. If the static compensator role is required, then we need to provide this loop also to provide the reactive power from the grid side converter or line side converter. So that is also possible. This is a logic diagram for series grid side converter. So below there is a logic is given. Whenever this logic is being fulfilled, then series grid side converter come into the picture. Otherwise it is in ideal condition, and it will be able to provide the required reactive power as well as the required compensation into the series. So this is what we are able to achieve, and let me show you a result on this diagram of this configuration, where 1.5 megawatt 3 wind turbines are there of smaller capacity, which is making a wind farm, and is connected to a grid of distribution feeder of 25 kV. The wind farm is having a voltage rating of 575 volt W-fed induction generator, and the results are there for 50% of voltage side. We are able to see there are oscillations in the flux, stator currents, rotor currents, as well as the torque also. But when this unified architecture where series grid side converter is being used, we are able to see that the oscillations are reduced, and the systems becomes well damped, well behaved system. So these are some results for the stator current and the torque also. Fine. So this is all about today's session. There are certain some slides are also there for reactive power capability curve, but with this I would like to stop, and if is there any question, then I would be happy to answer.
Dear participants, now session is open for the discussion and queries. So if you have, please you may ask. So, Bharat, there is one question in the chat box.
Let me just see. There is a question, brief explanation of importance of reactive power. Okay, so reactive power is required for the operation of power system, and so it's mostly like a medium by which a active power can be transferred, and our the loads which are inductive loads can operate. Simple, if you are taking example of ceiling fan on induction machine, the ceiling fan, which is also an induction machine, single phase induction machine or a 3-phase induction machine. So if such type of loads are there, they require a air gap to be magnetized so that the active power can be transferred and can work for your mechanical power or some rotation or flow of some fluid if it is a ceiling fan is there. So that's why a reactive power is required for the operation of power system as well as operation of certain loads. If the reactive power is not there, then this magnetizing may not be possible and operation of such type of devices may not be possible. So this is why reactive power is required. And then induction generator or induction machine, we are able to see they require reactive power, but when they are working as a wind farm, wind energy conversion system, we are expecting that they should be able to inject the reactive power to the grid rather than absorbing the reactive power, and which is possible by utilizing these Portonic converters. And I hope this addressed partially. Next is FEX devices as applicable for power security. I think that is a completely different topic. Arvind will be able to. Arvind has worked a lot in that. He will be able to.
No, this is true. FEC device is applicable for security because in case we want to manage the voltage and frequency, and definitely power balance will be there, then voltage and frequency will remain the fixed. So FEC devices will play a major role in security. That is true.
Yes.
Sir, in microgrid, is there a relation between PF or QF? Bharat, next question, Deepka.
So PF means, I assume that PF means you want to say power frequency, and QF means reactive power and frequency.
Active power frequency, right? That is PF.
Yes. Okay, good. So what is the microgrid? Then we have to see and discuss first that. So microgrid means a smaller grid with smaller rating where different resources of generation are there. Need not to be only renewable energy. It could be even diesel generator set also. And if it is a grid connected microgrid, then it would be a bit simple because the frequency of this microgrid then would be maintained mostly by the main grid. But if it is a standalone microgrid, which is not connected to the grid for isolated system, then obviously you have to make sure that your load demand is being met so that you're operating at a desired frequency, and then a main power source is generally given a responsibility to maintain the frequency of a system by increasing or decreasing the active power based on the load demand. So this is what